Hello, my name is Noemi. I'm one of the students from Ohio State who came in to observe one of your music classes back in February. We were supposed to come back and give you a lesson on each of our instruments, but your teacher got sick, so we couldn't go back, but hopefully this video does give you some information on each of our instruments and does get you more curious. So, I play the violin. The violin is made from wood in all places, front, back, and the side, and it has two holes in the front. These two holes are in the shape of an F, so we call them the F holes. This is how our sound gets out when we're trying to play it. The violin also has 4 different strings. It goes from being pretty high to going down low. The strings are made from steel, which is a type of metal. The other part to my instrument is the bow. The bow is pretty much a long piece of wood, so like a stick, but it also has hair on one side. This hair comes from horses, and this is what we use to make sound when we play our instrument. So basically we just set it on a string, any of the strings, and then we just pull. And that's how we get sound out. Another way we also make noise is by using pizzicato. When we use pizzicato, we just pull the string with our finger instead of pulling with our bow. So those are the 2 ways we can make sounds on the violin. Now, before I go any further, I want to tell you all how important it is to warm up before you play any instrument. So, just like athletes might warm up before playing a big game or just working out, musicians also have to do the same thing. We're actually athletes of tiny muscles. For instance, when I play the violin, I use the tiny muscles in my wrists, my hand, and my fingers. So, I want to be able to make these as comfortable as I can so they don't get hurt and I have to stop playing. So, I'm going to show you 2 of the warm-ups that violinists sometimes use before we pick up our instrument. The first one is called finger twinkling. And we just call it twinkling because we always imagine twinkling just piano keys. If you ever played a piano, you can just do this and just move your fingers around. Also, if you're probably, in a pool, or if you go to a lake and you touch the water and you see the ripples, but you don't want to put your entire fingers in it, you just bounce them off. That's finger twinkling. Yeah. And the next one is used mostly when we're using our bow. Now this one, it helps us to remember what motion we use when we play, which is this motion. So, in order for that warm-up, we use something called jellyfishing. So when we jellyfish, put your hand in front of you. You can use either hand, but we usually use our right hand, and you go back and forth. It's like a jellyfish does when it swims. If you've ever watched a cartoon like SpongeBob and you see the jellyfish when they're swimming, that's how you kind of want to move your hand, going out behind you. That's the motion you use when you're bowing, and then you just move it in front of you instead of to the side. Yeah, and we do that for a few seconds, and that usually helps us and makes our hands all warmed up. Okay, well, that's over. I'm going to start to tell you a little bit about music history. So, the first section of music history that I'm going to tell you about is called the Baroque period. So, during the Baroque period, it was a time of kings and queens. You could also think of it as when a lot of people were wearing big white wigs and they had really fancy dresses, and the music was also really fancy. One composer called Sebastian Bach, he wrote a lot of pieces for instruments that sounded really fancy. The one that I'm going to play for you is called Partita number 3 in E major. Now I'm only going to play a little portion of it, but I want you to hear how high he writes up, and that also helps a lot of people to think of it as a fancy piece. Did you notice how high it was? It wasn't down low. It was pretty high up in the violin's range, which is why it's part of the Baroque era, and it was also very fancy sounding. Now, the next section of history that I'm going to tell you about is called the classic section. Now, the classic section had a lot of big symphonies, which imagine like it's not a small picture book. It's a big book that has a lot of chapters in it. Just like a book may have a lot of chapters, a symphony has what we call movements. And one really famous composer of the classic period was called Ludwig van Beethoven. So he wrote a lot of big symphonies, and actually the one that I'm going to play for you is his Symphony Number 5. It's really famous, and you might know it, you might not know it. But when he wrote this, he was already starting to go deaf. He was almost pretty much completely deaf, but he was still able to hear all the notes inside his head, which is why we consider him a musical genius of classical music. So when I play this, I want you to notice how I use the dynamics, like when I'm loud and when I'm soft, and how it makes you feel. What do you think it adds to the music? Did you hear the contrasting dynamics? If so, I'm curious to hear what you think. When I hear the different dynamics, when it's loud and when it's soft, I imagine the loud section being really powerful. He's trying to say, hey, look at this. It sounds really cool. But then when he gets soft, then he does that so that the audience and everyone listening kind of, you get curious. You're like, what's going on? Why did you get quiet? And then it grows back, just like you're starting to get excited again for what's coming up. And that's why the classic period is really important in musical history. The next period is called the Romantic period. There's still a lot of music in the Romantic period, but a lot of it is also really sweet. There's some powerful, but most of it is just very luscious and just smooth music, and it's just really nice. The one I'm going to play for you is by a composer called Camille Saint-Saëns. He was from France, and it's called Les Cygnes. Now, in English, it means the swan. He wrote this because he had a whole compilation or symphony called Overture for the Carnival of the Animals. So he wrote a bunch of little pieces for a lot of different type of animals. And this is the one that he wrote for the swan, because he thought it was very graceful and a really pretty animal. Now this piece is pretty slow, and I want to know what you think and how it would be different if I played it fast. Yeah, so because it was slow, I don't imagine a swan just like quickly flapping its wings and like chasing after you. I imagine more of just a swan swimming calmly on a lake. There's a sunset, and it really gets me thinking about how slowly the swan can move, and it's really graceful. So it's a fun piece. Now, the next section in musical history is the modern era. So this modern section starts around the 20th century, but it also goes up until today. So it can also include a lot of popular music. So I'm going to play you a piece that does come from a Disney movie. If you know it, feel free to just clap along to the beat. And I'm going to use some pizzicato when I'm playing this. So remember, it's going to be when I'm plucking the string instead of using my bow. And you're going to notice the different sound that it makes on the violin, even though I'm still playing the violin, you know? This was called Bare Necessities, and it's from the Jungle Book, and it was about just a child who's out in the jungle and is just singing with a bear about having fun. So this song, as you could tell, it's more upbeat than a lot of the others, and you can actually sing along to it. And it's pretty fun because you also use pizzicato, and it's not quite as loud as the bow, but it adds an interesting touch to what you're playing. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is not about a time in musical history, but it is certainly as important as all the things that came before. So, this is a song that is heavily influenced from Spain, which is in Europe. And in Spain, there's a really popular and traditional dance called the tango. It usually involves someone wearing a bright red dress and then someone wearing a black outfit, and it's pretty intense dancing, but it's always really fun to watch. So this is called Libertango, and it's by a composer called Astor Piazzolla. And it just kind of, I don't know, when I play it, it makes me imagine people dancing, you know, you start getting tired because you're moving a lot, and it's just a fun piece. And you can also play things from all over the world, not just something like this, but I thought this would be a good example and it would be fun for everyone to hear. And that was a tango. I hope you enjoyed this little lesson on the violin and that you learned something new and that you also get more curious about string instruments in general.
Hi everyone, my name is Ivy and I play the viola, which sounds like this. At first glance, you'll notice that the viola looks a lot like the violin, and they have a lot in common. They're both members of the string family, they're made out of wood, they have 4 strings, and you play it on your shoulder. However, if we were to compare them side by side, you'd notice that the viola is a little bit bigger and a little bit lower. We have 4 strings. The highest is A, followed by D, then G, and C is the lowest. Okay, we're gonna play a game called Higher or Lower. To begin, let's all stand up and form a line. Alright, so I'm going to play 2 notes, If you think the second note is higher, take a step forward, and if you think the second note is lower, take a step backward. If you took a step forward, you are correct. And if you took a step back, that's right. Okay, this time I'm going to play 2, so you're going to take 2 steps. If you took 2 steps forward, you're right. All right, last one is going to be tricky. I'm going to play 2 notes again. If you took 1 step forward and 1 step back, you got it. All right, next we're going to do long or short. So stay standing in your line, and if I play something that's long, I want you to keep standing. But if I play a note that's short, I want you to have a seat. That note was short, so you should be sitting down. That note was long, so you should be standing back up. And that note was short, so you should be sitting back down. Last one. That note was long, so you're standing back up again. Alright, last thing we're going to do is louder or softer. So if I play something and you think it's loud, go ahead and take a step to the left. If I play something and you think it's quiet, take a step to the right. If you thought that was soft and stepped to the right, you are correct. If you took another step to the right, you're correct again. That was loud, so you should have taken a step to the left. And our last one. If you went back to the left and ended up right where you started, you are correct. Good job.
Hi guys, my name is Marin and I am at The Ohio State University. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the flute today. So the flute is my primary instrument, which just means it's the instrument that I started on when I was younger and I've continued to play for all this time. The flute is a cool instrument, something I have loved since I was in 5th grade. And there's many cool components to the flute. To start, the flute is considered a woodwind instrument. So there's percussion, there's brass, and then there's woodwind. There's strings, of course, as well, and voice. So being a woodwind instrument, that would include basically the saxophone, the clarinet, the flute. And basically all that means is although it's not made of wood, the flute is actually made of silver or gold, which is pretty cool. It has padding underneath the keys. So the flute has a ton of keys. When you first look at it, that's what your eye goes to. You have a whole bunch of keys here. Your finger goes on every single one, or every single finger has a key to go onto, but there's also some extra keys over here where you can press and move away from your keys, which is cool. And the biggest thing about the flute, what the flute is kind of known for, is its high range, which just means that you can play very high. So when it sounds very shrilly and kind of gross sometimes, that's the flute. The flute can also get pretty low. So it's a big range, low to high. It's really cool. So I am going to demonstrate for you guys a little bit of what the flute can do. So the flute has, like I said, a high and low register. It can play very fast, it can play very slow, and it can play short notes or it can play long notes. Okay, so to demonstrate how the flute can play high and low, I'm going to play just a C major scale. You guys may have heard this before, you may have played it before in class, but I'm going to play it in 3 different octaves.
What's up, guys? My name's Irene, and I'm also an Ohio State musician who plays flute. I've been playing since I was in 4th grade, and it's so much fun for me. And one of the reasons it's so much fun for me is because you can do so many cool things with the flute. One thing you can do with the flute is called vibrato. Vibrato is when you make your sound get higher and lower really, really fast, making a kind of wah 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 type of effect. Here's what a note sounds like with no vibrato. Kind of boring, right? Now here's what a note sounds like with vibrato. Sounds a lot cooler, right? Can you think of where else in this video you've heard vibrato? Yeah! Noemi used vibrato on her violin, and Ivy used vibrato on her viola. Vibrato is super fun because you can use it to make songs sound super pretty and majestic. Listen to this. Do you guys recognize that? That's Princess Leia's theme from Star Wars. Princess Leia is always represented by the flute because the flute can make such a majestic sound with lots of vibrato. We see a lot of vibrato and a lot of slow music with a lot of long notes. Now Marin is going to help us find out how to pick that type of music out.
Okay, so to demonstrate a fast versus a slow song on the flute, I'm going to do 2 Disney pieces that you guys might know. So I'm going to play a slow song for you guys that's a Disney song. So guess what I'm playing if you know what it's from. Okay, so now I'm going to go into how the flute can play long and short notes. So this is in terms of note length. So like a whole note will be long, or a staccato short quarter note could be the short note. I'm going to play again 2 different Disney pieces. I'm going to start with a long note version. See if you notice the song.
really cool thing flutes can do is trill. A trill is when you go back and forth between two notes, getting faster and faster and faster. This allows you to create music with a ton of drama. This is what a trill sounds like. The flute is great for playing trills because it has special trill keys like these that allow you to play extra fast. This gives you a feeling of drama or moving quickly, like in this little bit from Stars and Stripes Forever. So yeah, that's Stars and Stripes Forever. Marin and I and our studio got to play this along with the Ohio State Marching Band back in October. Yeah, it was super tight. Stars and Stripes Forever is a march for celebrations, and those trills add to the celebrations, like a little bit of extra sparkle or a little bit of icing on the cake. They also help give the music a feeling of speed. Another thing people do to give the music a feeling of speed is to write really short notes, kind of like these. Marin is going to help you pick out those fast and short notes right now.
Okay, now I'm going to play a fast song for you guys. It's also a Disney song. See if you can figure out what it is. Okay, lastly for you guys, I'm going to play a song that has short notes in it. Again, it's another Disney song, so see if you remember it.
All right, it's game time. We're going to test your skills. I know you got this. I'm going to play a song, and you guys are going to stand up if it has a lot of short notes, or sit down if it has a lot of long notes. Let's test it out. Should you stand up or sit down for this? That's right. You should stand up. For bonus points, you can also guess the name of the song. Ready? All right, let's get started. Round 1. If you guys stood up for that one, you are absolutely correct. And can anyone guess the name of that song? That's right. That is Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid. Good job, guys. Round 2. Did you sit down? If you did, you are absolutely right. And can you guess the name of the song? That's right. It is Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. Great job, guys. Round 3. If you guys stood up for that one, you are absolutely right. This song has a lot of short notes. And can you guess the name? Yep, you got it. That's Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake from the Trolls movie. You got one more round, guys. You got this. Round 4. Did you sit down for that one? If you did, good job, you got it right. And the name of the song is? Yeah, it's Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. Good job, guys, on completing the challenge. We really hope that you guys enjoyed our video lesson. We're super bummed out that we couldn't do it for you guys in person, but we hope you guys had a really good time. Bye!